Good evening. I'm going to say something I never thought I would. Thank you, Shamima Begum. This one ISIS bride from Tower Hamlets is probably about to bring down the Labour government and get us out of the ECHR. Now, the ECHR is challenging the UK's ban on Begum ever returning to the UK after her lawyers brought an appeal. So how do we think the ECHR is going to rule? Well, previously, judges from countries like Montenegro, Latvia, Liechtenstein and Slovenia have decided that al-Qaeda fanatic Abu Qatada couldn't be deported. Do you know who actually represented Abu Qatada in an earlier case? Yes, it's our now Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. Classic. The ECHR ruled that we couldn't deport someone because their son didn't like foreign chicken nuggets, that we couldn't enact the Rwanda plan, and it also allowed Gazans into Britain. In 2024, it sided with a bunch of geriatric Swiss women who argued that their age and gender made them particularly vulnerable to life-threatening heat waves caused by climate change. So the ECHR is pretty obviously going to say that we have to take Shamima back. And this will be a nightmare for Labour. Why? Well, Sir Keir Starmer's Attorney General and close friend, Lord Hermer, said this Labour government would never deviate from an ECHR ruling.
Now, I'm proud to say that since taking office, this new United Kingdom government has taken steps to uphold our obligations and the international rules-based system. The new United Kingdom government will never withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights or refuse to comply with judgments of the court.
There you go. That is just black and white, isn't it? So, the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood is saying that she will fight any attempt to bring Shamima back. And that, my friends, is a problem for Labour. The Immigration Appeals Commission, the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal and then the Supreme Court again have all said that Shamima Begum should not be allowed back to Britain. So when a load of anonymous foreign judges in a foreign country tell us that we have to take her, I don't think the British public are going to like that very much. And if Sir Keir Starmer sides with his international lawyer mates, I think that's pretty much game over for him. But it will also be game over for the ECHR. There'd be demonstrations, there'd be massive calls to leave, and at the next election, people will vote for whatever party says that they will take us out of it. So thank you, Shamima, for being about to bring down a Labour government and for helping to restore full sovereignty back to the British legal system. I would also like to thank her for giving me another excuse to play these clips. This is her saying there's no evidence she's a threat.
I don't see why he would see me as a threat. I'm a 19-year-old girl with a newborn baby. I don't have any weapons. I don't want to hurt anyone, even if I did have weapons or anything. So he has no proof that I'm a threat. Other than that, I was in ISIS, but that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the ISIS thing is quite a big deal, actually. And she was actually all right with ISIS atrocities.
Did you know what Islamic State were doing when you left for Syria? Because they had beheaded people, there were executions.
Yeah, I knew about those things and I was okay with it.
Bingo. So, I personally really like the PR job they've tried to do on her. So she went from ISIS bride Shamima, boo, hiss, oh no, to totally normal girl next door Shamima. Hello, fellow liberal Westerners. Forgot about the fact that I was in a jihadi death cult. I like baseball caps and lipstick now. I am one of you. And then she went one step further. She offered to help fight terrorism if we bring her back to Britain. Oh yeah, fantastic. That would be like me and the SAS offering to go to Calais to do a humanitarian mission to help the human traffickers. Look, wouldn't it just be absolutely delicious if it turns out that of all the things, it's a jihadi bride from Tower Hamlets that finally ends Sir Keir Starmer's political career?
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind. The more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. We have got former Tory advisor James Price, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, former Labour Party advisor Susie Stride. James, start with you. So, look, I mean, I think this might be it. I mean, Shamima could bring down Labour and get us out the ECHR.
Yeah, I mean, I stand corrected on the previous hour. Maybe diversity is our strength if this is what's going to do this. Look, I used to actually think that this was our problem. We allowed a 15-year-old girl to be so radicalised by Islamist terrorist ideology and to slip away that it should be the British state's responsibility to bring her back and make her face justice. I used to think that. Unfortunately, I think the situation in this country is now so dire in so many ways that if we can shorn ourselves of these sorts of problems and have this person who just admitted there, I always forget this, admitted she knew all the beheadings, she knew presumably about the kind of open-air sex slave auctions that were going on, and the mass rapes and beheadings and killings and all the rest. She was fine with all of that. But forget this about her at this point. We don't need to have these people in our country. Why would we want them here? But of course, the foreign judges in the ECHR apparently know better. And I think you're right, this is going to cause a massive problem. Shabana Mahmood is going to try and look tough on all of this, but she's going to be outvoted by Keir Starmer, who built his entire career on the idea that international law is more important than British domestic law. It's going to be the most almighty Barney, and the country is going to be able to see that Labour prioritises the rights of people like Shamima Begum over the rights of the rest of us.
Well, I mean, logic and past form from the ECHR would strongly suggest that they're going to side in Shamima Begum's favour. So let's just assume that happens. And we know that the Attorney-General is on record saying that this government will never, ever deviate from an ECHR ruling. So she would come back.
Yeah, we would have to take her. I mean, Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, being a human rights lawyer, there's no way that he would ever go against his human rights lawyer mate. It's absolutely not going to happen. And he's really skating on thin ice at the moment when we have just had over the past week this story about Alaa Abdel Fattah, where we've had someone who's put up these tweets glorifying terrorism, saying we need more suicide bombings and whatnot. He's been welcomed with open arms by the Prime Minister, Yvette Cooper and David Lammy. That is making him look like a terrorist sympathiser. And then if he ends up submitting to the ECHR when all the UK courts have said absolutely no way this girl's not allowed back in the country, he is going to look bad. And then, of course, we've got the story that's just come out in the Telegraph this evening about our government signing off on 240k being handed to a terrorist in prison because he wasn't allowed to hang out with the other terrorists in prison that he wanted to be with.
Yeah, which David Lammy did not appeal.
Yeah.
He didn't appeal that
So
ruling.
it's really starting to look like this government are a load of terrorist sympathisers, and all of this together, if Shamima comes back, that's like the cherry on top of the cake.
Well,
that may lead to their
just on that then, Susie, do you think that if we're going to talk about this a bit more at 10:30, by the way, but this, I mean, he's just a jihadi, right? And David Lammy has chosen not to appeal the ECHR on that. If Shamima comes back, do you think it does make the government look like they're terrorist sympathisers?
I think it's really important to look at what's going on here. You know, the Home Secretary has made it very, very, very clear that she is not going to allow Shamima to come back. So if
she says she's going to do everything she can to fight the case, so she will argue against ECHR. But if they ultimately rule that Shamima Begum has to come back, she will be back in the country.
No, that's not what actually she said. Because also, whatever they rule, that actually has no hold here anyway. I think there is no way absolutely no way they're going to allow her to be... And Keir Starmer has said that, and our Home Secretary has said that.
So you think they will ignore the ECHR ruling, even though Lord Hermer has said very clearly there that we will never ignore an ECHR ruling, and we have a human rights lawyer as our Prime Minister?
I think they're going to do... I think they're going to do what she said she's going to do, which is protecting rights, not supporting terrorism.
She's
made it very...
Shamima's rights?
She's made it very, very clear. I mean, I think it's really interesting, actually, when you look at what Shabina Mahmood has said on this.
She's going to do everything she can to fight the ECHR.
She has made it very clear
that
the rulings that have happened, she supports. She's made it very, very clear she's going to fight and to make sure that she's not allowed back in the country. And she's also said that actually, for her, as someone who's an immigrant herself, that it is so important that when you have citizenship, that there is responsibility with that. There is no way. I know, you guys can...
She said she's going to do everything
look, you can bring me back on in a couple of weeks' time or whenever this happens. I'm saying they're not going to allow it. They've made it very clear. Keir Starmer has had...
So then the Attorney General's going to have to go, isn't he?
Right, so either the Attorney General will resign over this issue, because, again, he also, like Starmer, thinks this stuff is more important, or to block her from coming back into the country, Keir Starmer will have to say, right, we're either going to leave the ECHR or we're going to change huge amounts of... and we'll have to change huge amounts of British law that ports all of this stuff in, not to mention decades of case law, which will actually be a great thing, because then we wouldn't have to have all these other payouts and all the rest of it that we're going to talk about. So either we end up with Starmer going or Hermer going, and or we might leave the ECHR.
I'm sorry, it's a bit ridiculous, Starmer going. I mean, that is not going to happen. And also, actually, what Starmer has said and what the Home Secretary has said is that we are going to change domestic law in this country so that parts of the European legislation cannot be applied in the way that they're applying it, because we all agree it's ridiculous. Some of it is balmy. People that have broken the law.
Well, he didn't think that when he used it to have a job. So, like, when he defended Abu Qatada, or he defended Hizb ut-Tahrir, which is a now banned terrorist organisation, or when the likes of Lord Hermer worked with Jerry Adams.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying in the last 6 months... I'm saying in the last 6 months...
So he's realised in the last 6 months...
I'm saying in the last 6 months...
Big shit, isn't it?
No, it's not. They've made it... In the last 6 months, they've made it really, really clear we are going to change domestic law so it cannot be applied in the ways...
annoying, really.
Because it has been abused.
Yeah, but it is, by people like them, right? And that's what makes it especially annoying, because they might have come to their senses in the last 6 months because they realise they're going to be out on their rear end because the public hate them. But actually, they've spent the last 20, 30, 40 years literally doing all of this stuff and making all of our lives worse. And that's what I find particularly annoying. But just in terms of whether or not Starmer would have to go over this, if Shamima comes back... Look, we are dealing in hypotheticals here, but I think we can take educated guesses at this. If the ECHR say that she's got to come back and Starmer then says, OK, the level of public anger over that, Chloe, I mean, surely he would have to go.
Yeah, I mean, if it was just that alone, then maybe not. But when it is at a time when he is on his last legs already, I mean, there was loads of talk of will he even still be in office at Christmas? He's made it past Christmas. And now everyone's saying by May he might be gone. Andy Burnham and various others all making moves trying to get rid of the guy. Shamima Begum coming back could be the last nail in the coffin that just pushes him over the edge.
Be prepared to see this on leaflets going into the May elections by the Reform Party and the Conservatives.
I've really seen, not that I've been looking at polling, but just the general consensus from people over the past week with the Alaa Abdel Fattah. People are particularly outraged about that. And I thought after seeing that before the Shamima Begum story came out, that could be the end of him. And now this on top and the 240k handed to this terrorist in prison. I think
this is all within a week, actually, isn't it, really? I mean, this is all within a week. You've got the Al Fattah case where they are, and it doesn't look like they're making any attempt now whatsoever to try to deport this guy. There were
they love him.
Clearly no background. Well, yes, this is the thing, isn't it? I personally don't buy the idea that no one was aware of this guy's tweets. I don't buy it. I don't buy the idea that no one was aware of his sister's tweets. I think that's ridiculous. I think the much more sensible conclusion to come to is that people were aware of his tweets and they either didn't mind them or they wanted to ignore them because they were desperate for him to be a nice guy. And then you've got the Shamima Begum situation, and then you've got this rampant jihadi who took a prison officer hostage who's just been awarded £240,000. Thank you very much, David Lammy. Look, it's an absolute horror show what's going on. I mean, Susie, you actually are of the view, am I right in saying that you don't think she should come back? I think you are...
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with our Home Secretary. I think, Yeah, I think the minute she decided to go over there and be with ISIS, I think she gave up her right to British citizenship. And I think the vast majority of people, you know, believe that and support that, including our Home Secretary including our Prime Minister. And I actually believe they are going to hold a very hard line on that. So, you know, talks of...
Susie, would you, if it is the case that the ECHR keeps forcing this point then, that Shamima has to come into the country, would you back leaving the ECHR? Because it trumps what Shabana Mahmood and Keir Starmer say they want to do.
Can I just say, I have a big problem with it being abused and used in the wrong way. Someone would be stupid if they said that isn't happening. That is what's happening. The Home Secretary and Keir Starmer have made it very clear that we are going to change the law in this country so that it cannot be misused. So we don't have these random stories. I mean, I think the chicken nugget one possibly wasn't, you know, as black and white as that. But ultimately, it's been abused. So they're going to change the law so it cannot be misused in that way. That is very important.
But I'm not sure that's going to keep Shamima Begum away, specifically for, I think, rights to a family life.
OK, so I'm saying we need to look at the facts. The Home Secretary has made it very clear she's got a hard line on this.
OK, well, there you go. Well, look, we'll see what happens. I mean, I would be willing to put a tenner on it. And I think that the ECHR will say she has to come back. I think that puts the Labour government in an incredibly difficult situation. Look, you know, Lord Hermer has said, we've played the clip of him, he said she's going to have to come back. What will happen there? But anyway, a Home Office spokesperson has said the government will always protect the UK and its citizens. That is why Shamima Begum, who posed a national security threat, interesting use of past tense there, by the way, had her British citizenship revoked and is unable to return to the UK. We will robustly defend any decision made to protect our national interests. There you go. That's their line. They're sticking to it. Well, yeah, we'll see. There's still a few other...
Maybe back on if anything changes.